Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Granger. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the next episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I've been joined for this episode by none other than Erkan Mustafa, who played Roland Browning. Erkan, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time coming.
It has, and I'm so thrilled that you've agreed to come on. I'm really looking forward to this one. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start the way we start every episode, and we'll go all the way back. And if you can just tell us how you got into acting.
You know what? It's really strange. I mean, the story's out there anyway. I mean, it started off, I was in primary school. I was about the age of maybe 10. The national press put an advert that the BBC was looking for a child to appear in Granger.
Right.
They said like a child of an overweight sized child because they couldn't find one in drama schools and stuff like that. Up until that point, the only dramas I've probably called was to my parents. And the only play that I'd ever appeared in was probably the Nativity play.
Right.
Which is, I went up to my first audition because my teacher said, look, do you want to go? Spoke to my parents and it snowballed and I got an audition. I went to one audition and I remember reading some part of the script with a guy who was Patrick Henry. I can't remember his character really bad, and I should do because Patrick to go to school with my brother, and they grew up in the area. So I read my first script with him. Then I had to do a bit with just me, I believe a writer and a director, and I came away. Then after some time, I got called for a second audition, and that was at the rehearsal rooms in Ealing, and there was lots of kids probably like 4 or 5 actors, a similar size to me, like Lee MacDonald and Alison and those guys were all there, Nadia. And we all had to do like little bits and like improv, and we had to pretend we was on a boat and walking through doors and reading scripts, and that was sort of an all-day affair. And then I got told congratulations that day that I had the part, which was God knows how, and God knows what. Who don't know.
Brilliant. So had you been a fan of Granger before then?
Like most kids, everyone's mentioned on the air, we only had 3 channels back in the day at a certain age group. Some people had 3, depends if their parents' TV was working. We may have only had 2 at one point, if I remember right. With a classic bang, bang, bang. And I was a fan of the show. I mean, obviously, I grew up with the likes of Todd, Tucker, and Benny Green and Alan, because I'm so used to calling them by their real names. So
no worries.
And obviously, when we did the scenes with those guys, it was like, wow, these are the guys that they first walked onto our screens. And Terry was the first person through those gates.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky enough to call him my mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was amazing experience. Joining a show where you've actually watched people, and I had no acting background whatsoever. Right. So I suppose I was nervous. I don't know, the first year, lucky enough, Roland didn't even look up for probably about 12 so that was the result, even when he got knocked down, he was looking down. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you joined in Series 5, which went out in 82. You were at like the new cohort with Zamo and Jonah and Annette.
Well, you had another year group coming who they were very similar to the years before, and that's what the magic of Granger, because they just reinvent and tweak the characters so well. And that's what I think they did with our sort of year, basically. So we very that we proceeded to follow on from other characters. And the public had already sort of had 3 or 4 years, and Granger was on the run by this time. They had 2 years of walking, and now that they've started to crawl a little bit, and then they started running. So we were quite lucky, really, to step in at that point, because 5 years of the show on 5 series of a show coming on, and yes, there was characters, but people knew what it was about by this time, so that was a great thing.
Yeah, and you've just mentioned it a little bit earlier about looking down for the most of the first series. I mean, I watched your first episode the other day, and Roland was on a hiding to nothing right from the start, wasn't he? Because it's very first scene, Sutcliffe has a go at him straight away. You know what I mean? And right from the off, teachers were having a go. Obviously, Gripper was having a go.
If I remember rightly, wasn't it Bullet that had a go at me?
No, so Sutcliffe walks in, Roland walks in the gates, and Sutcliffe
comes right, in
behind him. Baxter has a go after Gripper's just thrown him to the floor. Baxter doesn't even bother to find out what's going on. He just has a go at him for his appearance and stuff. And it's just right from the off, even the likes of Tucker and Alan have a go at Roland in that first episode, and Annette. And it's no surprise he was the way he was, because he walks out of school, doesn't he? In that episode, first day.
God rest her soul, the lovely Jo Kendall, who I never knew much about until I was much older and realised what an amazing lady she was.
Yeah.
And, I had to go and see my on-screen mum, and she sends me back to school with some food and money, and that sort of set precedence to where he was, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been great as well, having the fact that Roland had a family in the show as well, working with Jo Kendall and Mike Savage. That must have been...
Mike Savage, yeah, I mean, when I obviously you don't know about these things. You don't know what's going to happen to a character. You don't know who's going to play mum and dad. And they were just lovely people, and they just looked after me and they treated me wonderful. I mean, it was amazing to have as on-screen parents.
Brilliant. And so obviously we've mentioned the fact that you joined in a new cohort. Who would you say you were closest to on the show, or best friends with?
It's really weird, and I know this question was coming up, and it's going to surprise you and surprise your listeners, to be honest.
That's okay.
No, it really is. And last year I was speaking to Alison Bettles and Lisa York. They always said, "Oh, you was always a strange one." And I was like, "Why?" They went, "Because you spent most of your time with directors and the crew." And I said, "I've got to tell you the reason why." And I'd like to say it was something profound, like, they were all whatever, but they wasn't. What it was the fact that they all belonged to their stage schools and their drama schools. Right. And I didn't. Right. I was independent. Yeah. And I didn't know, which one, you don't know which one to belong to, because you do sort of belong to a group at that age. And I was very lucky that I did know Patrick Henry, who supported me at one point, and a couple of the extras. So I didn't really build up many friendships in the first couple of years.
Right, I get you, yeah.
And I told the girls this last year, and they was just both really shocked, because Lisa lived only 2.5 miles away from me, and we used to catch the train together sometimes in the morning, and her dad used to pick us up and vice versa. And it was just we didn't know, and they said, "We're sorry," and I was like, "There's nothing to be sorry about. It was so long ago. We were kids. We didn't know no different, So no, I didn't have any really major, who I really sort of latched onto very early on in the series. So and like Ricky always said. Ricky said, I was one of the first people that Ricky spoke to, and the reason why I was one of these people, you'd hear a lot of people say, "Oh, Erk was one of the first people to speak to us," because there's nothing worse than being a new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And if someone can reach out and just say, "Look, hi," that's it. I always think you're making somebody feel comfortable. And the moment you make somebody feel comfortable, then you could have a friend for life.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So that's the reason why, I mean, the same when Bradley Shepherd and John Orford and those guys came in. I never forget Brad. Brad was a very sort of reserved young man. And I spoke to Brad not so long ago. I think it was November last year. Right. And he did say, after all these years, he said, "Thank you for for cared back then, and Stu care about me now." And I was like, "Brad, unfortunately we belong to a club."
Yeah.
An old boys club, an old school Thai club sort of thing. But so I never really had many friends in the first couple of years. A couple of the supporting artists who I just hung around with. But then friendships gained, which was amazing.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, so that first series of yours, it was a lot of, Roland did have to deal with a lot of not just bullying, but he was picked on by a lot of people, wasn't he? And it's no surprise that
Everybody.
he was no surprise he was the way he was. Now, when you look back at that first series, there's also, and I thought very early on for a children's program to be dealing with this subject was the suspicion of self-harming. Roland was hurting himself to try and get out of school.
Exactly. Which they could have pushed much more, but obviously at the time, you look back at these things and it was just introducing it. He was punishing himself for not being fitted in, and he was a single child at home. He was overweight. He had, he didn't have a lot going for him.
Yeah.
Apart from that, he could get a free apple from time to time from his mum. But he didn't have a lot. He didn't fit in, and wherever we are in this world, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't fit in. And sometimes you just got to reach out for those individuals.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I've mentioned a couple of times Gripper already. What was it like working with Mark Savage?
No, Mark was a lovely guy. You know what? I can only say he was very professional. There was an age gap, so we didn't really hung out together. So I could never say nothing like that. But one thing I will say is that, he was always a true professional. And many, 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 many years later, I'm walking up the high street at the time, and this guy comes up to the back of me and says, "Oi, give me your money." And I turn around and it's just Mark Savage. I went, "Who's buying the beers, me or you?" We just spent the afternoon in the pub having a couple of beers together. So that was fun, mate.
Yeah. No, can I just ask then? Because there was a lot of physical scenes with Mark.
Yeah.
Did you ever get hurt?
I didn't, no, but I remember poking Mark in the eye. There's the classic toilet fight that took place. Which, most people said to me, "I can't understand, that big fat kid couldn't take on this young," because he was a waif of a guy, but you know what? He was more mentally, he was great at that. Sinister, very sinister kind of guy. During that we had a they brought in a fight specialist, a stunt coordinator for that one. And I remember poking him in the eye during it. He was like, "Oh," so that's started. But no, to be honest, no. I mean, even like there's the time that Roland punches himself in the eye.
Yeah.
That took about 20 takes to get right because I was doing it too fast and too slow. It wasn't the computer. So I was, never had no injuries. Thank God.
Good. Because we will talk a bit about some of the stuff that you did, but have you got any personal favourite episodes or storylines that you were involved with?
You know what? Everyone talks about Chesterton Zoo because it was at first. And I will tell you a tip that none of them's ever told you. The actual first episode, that episode we filmed was 45 minutes long.
Right, wow.
And they had to edit it back down. There was so much written. There was loads of stuff on the bus going to Chesterton. They had to cut that, which they had to make it shorter, the episode shorter. That was one of my, because it was the first thing we ever did, we all loved it. Anything that took us out of studio, anything that's the Outward Bound trip in Wales, the orienteering in Ilkley, the barge trip in Rugby, they're all good times. And everything I did on the whole Roland and his great and chill girlfriend, the lovely Jessica Fabienne, who I met up with. I met up with her and her two children probably about 12, 15 years ago. Right. And all that whole French exchange student stuff was grand to play. But anything filming it out of London, out of the studios was always fun, always good times.
Brilliant. So you've mentioned Chessington there, and that's probably the first time we see an interaction between Roland and Janet.
Listen, no offence, I would take the most famous line from Granger. Well, there are many famous lines. For me, flipping it, Tucker will always be one. And Roland.
Yeah.
I only want to be your friend, Roland.
Now, everyone else called you Roland, but Janet Sinclair called him Roland. Was there any reasoning behind that?
You know what? To this day, I still don't know. In
Right.
my head, I believe it was a typo and it was just row hyphenated land.
Right, okay.
That's in my head. And I've never asked Simone how it came about, but I believe I will find out very shortly when I do see her next.
Right, okay. Okay. It is an iconic thing, isn't it? You know, I'm trying to help you, Roland. It's...
Listen, without her character, my character wouldn't exist, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really honestly believe that, yes, he was there, but because there was the Roland and I only want to be your friend, and their interaction, I think that's what made my character even better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I don't think he was ever rude to her. He was just very dismissive. He'd just say, "Oh, go away."
Yeah, leave me alone.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Obviously, Roland got in the review.
And again, I hate it. Hate that one. I'm in the school review bit. I just hate it. I've looked at it the other day on YouTube and I was like, just so pathetic, so corny.
But even then, Janet was just trying to talk to him again, and he was trying to get away, and he wrecked the scenery, just trying to get away from it. And again, he gets shouted at by a teacher for something that really wasn't his fault. And then there was the bit at the end, again, quite serious in the end.
Yeah, I believe that was episode 15 where he gets run over.
No, I had that in my head from when I was a kid, that he'd done that on purpose. But when you watch it, he's just really down and he just walks into the road without looking, doesn't he?
I don't think he ever did it on purpose. And people did say, "Oh, he did it," and they didn't. I think the fact that he was in such a... We've all been there, mate. We've all tried to cross the road when we're in deep thought, and suddenly we get that beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
We're lucky. And I think that's what happened, really.
Yeah. And then there was the thing that he was in the coma, but thankfully, he pulled through. But
otherwise you'd have nothing to talk about.
But then Series 6 starts, and even it's his first day back, and Gripper doesn't even wait for him to get to school, does he? He starts again and again, and then we see another clever thing, I think, where when as he's getting picked on by Gripper, he then starts picking on someone else. Roland.
It's always the same. Bullies is only deflecting and reflecting, and that's what that's what people do who get bullied. They start being bullied, but thankfully it wasn't for long.
No.
And it was only bitching about someone's skin condition.
Yeah, but there's also another famous scene when Gripper's trying to take money off Roland, and Paul goes there, and in the end, the whole school round on Gripper.
All 56 children, they cast up for that scene. Which these days they'd probably have to CGI the whole school there. You know what? That I think is a very poignant. I think that's a point where we actually do say the beginning of the fight back.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Gripper's character wasn't hated by those he bullied. He was hated by everybody.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And that's the first time we actually seen that within the masses we can deal with something.
Yeah.
And we could. There was quite a lot of protesting going on at one point in the Granger, but I think that's the first time we actually see it, and I think that's very clever of the writers. They plant it before the whole of the racism episode. I think that's the first time it gets planted in our heads that the whole school actually hates him.
Yeah, and then again, Series 6, sorry, you've mentioned already about a couple of the trips and whatever, but there was a few there, wasn't there? Because you went to St Albans.
St Albans, I don't really have much recognition of filming that apart from this dodgy tape recording and tapes at the wrong time when it was all edited. It just looked like everything went wrong. I don't really have much about that episode in my head regarding St Albans, to be honest.
But there was also the Outward Bound course.
Yeah, which was amazing. I went up on the Sunday. So the whole cast normally travelled together. I went up on the Sunday with the producer and my chaperone because they wanted me to film the stuff with the farmers and the lovely Welsh-speaking cook there. So I had to be, then I went up a couple of days in advance, and by the time everyone else got up there, I already knew what was going on within the whole of the Outward Bound Centre.
Right.
And we had some great times. We had some great times. They treated us, this Outward Bound Centre, we had to do like everybody else had to do. And we even had to do the washing up for the rest of the. Do you know, it wasn't like, they're the kids from Granger. No, every kid had to wash up, and they made us wash up other people's stuff.
Right, okay. Brilliant.
So that was great. It was great times. It was real fun.
Yeah. And that's where Roland again thinks, I'm not having this, and he again walks off. As you say, he gets found by the farmer. And this is where we first see, I think, Roland's aptitude for languages.
That's obviously that's, I remember it so well because they've just, made me rehearse it so many times. He picks up a bit of Welsh, and then later on he speaks a bit of French.
But I think that's quite clever because, in his later years, he did become, adept at speaking French.
Which is quite weird. When I look back at certain episodes, and I think to myself, Roland would never done that. He should have done it. He should have. You know what I mean? I get that. I get the language stuff. But there's one scene where he's playing basketball.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure we had the great Ron Pickering. For some reason, I've got Ron Pickering in my head. But someone from the basketball. And none of the stage called actors could actually play basketball.
Right.
And I was the only one I played it for school. So I just took over. So I felt that quite weird that the character suddenly is learning languages and suddenly there's a sport that he can play. It's a bit weird.
Yeah. There's also the famous scene at the Outward Bound course where Bullet gets the bucket of water over his head and everyone's laughing and Roland falls off the bed.
Pathetic. Absolute pathetic. When I look back at that. We filmed that. We actually did film that in the Outward Bound Centre, and then for some reason, something went wrong with the film, so we had to re-record it at the famous Ealing Studios. We filmed it in the Ealing Studios, but I just look back and I think, God, that's such wooden. I'm not even touching my ankle. Do you know what I mean? And I've got the worst pajamas out of all of them. Do you know what's going on?
But that's Roland, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Roland would have had the worst pajamas out of everyone, to be honest.
Most definitely.
And then there's that thing then where Roland sees that as an opportunity to, I can get up the activities here with my ankle because there's that line.
He'd break a fingernail. Do you know what I mean?
There's a line later on in that episode where I think it's Jonas says to him, "Which ankle's your bad one now?" Something like that.
Right, left, yeah.
As you said there, the episodies where there is a trip, it's always a good one, isn't it? Because you see them outside of the school environment.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the storylines within the school because it just goes to show what's classrooms and what the children around. But there was a release, and I think if you can release a character from its shackles, I should say, not shekels. Shackles. I think that's the best thing that we do, see him away. Even though I don't believe Roland would have gone on those trips. Like his character wouldn't have gone on those trips but then his parents would have made him go.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Certainly Mr. Browning would have made him go on it, definitely. Oh, yeah. I would imagine. Okay, so then that was the end of series 6. So then we move on to series 7. Agrippa's left by this point. Roland starts at a money lending, quite by accident as well, a money lending thing because, and it all comes out, I think, with the fact that
his dad keeps giving him money because his mum's
giving him money because mum's not there. Yeah, but then he he becomes a bit of a stooge, then, doesn't he, for Jimmy and Nigel as well?
What were they called? Let me work this on out.
McLaren Enterprises.
You know what? I don't know how that happened, why it happened, and obviously the two Garys were amazing, but you could tell they were so much older than they should have been. And really lovely guys, but I just never understood why Roland was hanging out with these two guys. They were But they just manipulating him yet again.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's that classic thing of a bully manipulating someone to make them think they're their friend.
And then you got the whole walk again, and where he meets up with Gripper again, and he just realizes Gripper's nothing. Yeah, and I think that's the time we actually do realise that.
Definitely. I mean, you've mentioned the walk there. There was all, I think, with the betting, and it was where you see that horrible side to Jimmy. I think where he says to Roland, you know, you've got to provide the money, basically. Like,
but there's also one of the funniest lines where they say, "Who, woo, woo." I always find that's one of my favourites.
Because that gets mentioned, that gets said a couple of times in that episode, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like the writers are saying, we'll bring this character in who nobody knows. He's never been in it before, and he probably won't be in it ever again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there was a character, and the partially hearing character, Eric.
Yeah.
And like, where did they come from? Like, they drag him in. We've never seen him in the classroom. But that was quite weird.
And then we move on a little bit more, and it's with that thing where, again, manipulated, and he ends up stealing Annette's bike, which, Roland probably wouldn't have done, but it's the way Jimmy and Nigel worked him, didn't they, to do it? Like,
I think at that point, Roland just wanted to be accepted by somebody.
Definitely,
and people do things for acceptance, and that's life, and it shouldn't. But yeah, it all came out in the wash, and then we all finished that series with the worst school disco ever, where they've said to the kids, "Wear your own clothes, just wear what you want." And I said, "No, I went to get Roland a jumper." So what they did, like, go up on stage with Pogo, and we'll just get a camera shot of you, and it's going to get. You know what? Bloody hate that song. Hate.
Because when I was speaking to Gary Hales, he really likes that ending. Probably because he's dancing with Nadia Chambers, to be fair. Like,
I just hated that episode.
Okay. But just before then, there was the orienteering weekend, where again, we see another thing of Roland coming to the forefront and becoming a little bit more accepted, shall we say, by people.
I think that's one of an episode that's written in such a way that, yes, he becomes this hero in a way because he's supposedly saved Mr. Baxter, but there's that two-person scene where Roland turns around and says, "But what about my mum leaving home? That's not your fault." And that's when it's hit the viewers that everything else that's probably happened, but this is not your fault. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's Roland's finally admitting that everything that's ever happened to him is because of his family.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really beautiful scene.
Yeah.
But at the time, didn't look at the scene like that. Obviously, we don't. We're kids. We don't give a shit. Basically, we just see the scene, just run with it. But I've looked back. I've looked at it and I thought, that's quite strong. And
what I think is quite telling in that scene is Baxter doesn't know how to handle that conversation either. It's like, because he's always been the blustery and the stereotypical PE teacher. He's not really used to being in that situation, like, and I think that was really good as well. Was it everything I do is a disaster? He says, doesn't he, Roland? And Baxter's a face, like, don't be daft. Look at the way you've handled yourself today. But then he says, "What about me mum?" And you just think, "Oh my god." So then your next series was Series 8, and Series 8 was all about the merger with Brookdale and Rodney Bennett. Certainly for starters, there was a load of new characters brought in. And in that series, we also had, as you've mentioned it already, the French exchange.
You know what? They just increased so many episodes and just so much went on in that. Didn't know if we was coming or going.
Yeah, I mean, but we get to see another side of Roland with the French exchange, because obviously he meets Fabienne and he is unbelievably smitten, isn't he? To the point where the fact that he speaks French all the time, and he even wears a beret, which I think is great as well.
I just felt, when we got told, and I remember they were casting some of the actors, because the original actor who played Alison Bettel's sort of love interest. I can't remember the character's name.
It was Jean Paul, was it?
Jean Paul.
Yeah.
So they started filming it, the original one. Then he fell out. The original Jean Paul couldn't do it. And then they had to bring another guy in called Dorian Ford, who was Karen Ford's, Miss Booth's nephew.
Uh-huh.
He's a great jazz pianist now and whatever he does. And it was just really weird because they all came to this. They all belonged to this London French school.
Uh-huh.
And then they cast, as I said, the lovely Jessica Harrison to play Fabienne, and it was quite, again, there's that. To be honest, there's that sort of love triangle happening that people don't realise. He's love with Fabienne, but yet you got Janet chasing him everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, just on Janet there, I never really got. I just think she just wanted to look out for him, didn't she? More than anything.
There was no love interest. I just think she was one of this earth's nice people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she didn't always have the right way of saying it, but she wanted to look out for him, didn't she? She wanted to make sure he was all right.
She meant well.
Yeah. Now, the thing with the French exchange seems to go on forever as well, by the way, like months. But then when it ended, obviously Roland was so in love that
he does a bunk.
Yeah. Now it's different to the other times when you see characters do a bunk in Granger. Like, it's not like Tommy Watson getting smuggled on the coach and stuff. Nah. I think he was quite openly just wandered onto the ferry. I mean, we don't see that bit, but then he gets found in the toilet, seasick on the ferry.
Filmed on the EastEnders lot.
Oh, was it?
So I'm sure, if I remember right, it was just around the corner from where they filmed the original series of EastEnders. Right. So they just built this. It just looked like a ship's door, basically a toilet door. And that's what we see. So we didn't go on no ferry.
No, I was going to ask you if that had happened. Like, so then I watched it the other day and I couldn't quite work out how he ended up getting caught and sent back, because it was only a couple of the French lads and Fabienne knew he was there. But obviously, people suddenly realised he wasn't in school. And then the next episode, we just know that his dad went to get him and Bronson went to get him at the same time. Like, and that was it. Because, in Series 8, other than the merger, Roland was quite peripheral, wasn't he? He was in scenes, but not really. There
wasn't much going on.
I think once he had is the love interest with Fabienne, that was it. Because then the next big thing he does was when he overhears Banksy and Loop talking about smashing up the sets.
I don't remember that. I honestly don't remember those scenes, because I know that Brighton Rock episode is another. They brought loads of people in. We didn't, like even the young Samantha Lewis came in and
Michelle Gale's in that as well.
Yeah, Michelle Gale. I mean, Michelle Gale, you got to think that Michelle started off as a supporting artist in our first year.
Yeah.
And then she comes in as a dancer again. And then obviously she comes in fresh and fly years to come, which I found really, really, but she's an amazing actress and that I can see why they reused that. And I don't really remember much about, apart from the French. The only thing that I remember was, I may have switched on the light at the end of Brighton. But, at the end of the day, I was never involved in none of it. And good, because Roland wouldn't have been involved. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
I imagine suddenly he comes out as, a top singer and dancer.
Yeah. So then, just after that, then there was the Christmas special, with the second Christmas special that they did.
That bloody donkey. To me, Harriet should never have been in Granger.
Right.
I'm going to say it. It never worked. I didn't understand the whole donkey thing.
That's the thing as well. The donkey came in that Christmas special, but then we didn't see it again until 87, a series or so later.
Yeah, I just thought it just got a bit.
But what I did like in that Christmas special was a nod back to Fabienne, because Roland's trying to win money to get to France for Christmas because his dad's away, and in the end, he doesn't win any money. But Janet comes to the rescue and says he can have Christmas with them. So then that took us nicely then to Series 9, which is arguably the most famous series, or certainly the most well known for the storyline in 86 of Just Say No.
Yeah.
And Roland is quite heavily involved in that storyline, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if we look back from the beginning of when they started introducing Zamo's character,
Yeah,
in that series and the change in him, I think Roland must have thought there's something going on there because there's total different character. And then when they did say so, that episode where Roland does finally find Zamo, I think probably one of the hardest episodes I've ever had to film.
Right.
And the reason why they did that is because, yes, they wrote the script and yes, we rehearsed, but there's something wasn't clicking.
Right.
And they said, we want you to improvise it. Just improvise what you need to improvise.
Right.
And I think that was just to bring us back to where the script was.
Uh-huh.
And it was, the whole scene, the whole build up in that whole episode is very poignant, and just the ending was always going to be dramatic. And I think that's probably for me one of the hardest episodes ever to film. And yes, you've got that little bit of humor from the other characters that float in and out of that episode, just building up and building up and building up. And yet again, we see Roland in another Liverpool jacket. He walks around the school with a Liverpool bag and a Liverpool jacket. And no, they're not my team. That's what was just given to me, I'm afraid.
But again, do you think it was Roland's attempts to try and fit in, wasn't it? It's like, I think maybe.
Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, personally, you couldn't have paid me to wear a Liverpool jacket or walk around with a Liverpool bag, I'll be honest. Sorry about that.
All you toffees are the same.
So, yeah, I mean, even after that episode, when Roland tries talking to Zamo about it, doesn't he? And Zamo is obviously massively in denial about how deep he is.
And if you listen to my voice in that episode, I'd only just come out of hospital. I had my tonsils removed.
Right. Wow.
And one of the things was you wasn't meant to be going in a mix with other children and stuff like that. And obviously they knew I was acting and whatever. And I said, look, I can't. I'm filming next week. I've got. Yeah. You can hear this. For me, I could hear this change in voice. And again, it's that there's a couple of things where we see that relationship between Zamo and Roland, and he's trying to, but there's no acknowledgement really of what was going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. That's quite poignant.
Yeah.
And I felt that's, and I just a bit. I know that you had the whole Kevin Baylor relationship and the Jackie relationship during the whole of that series, but I think it's the fact that who would be the most unlikeliest support network?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's definitely how I, looking back, that's how I felt it was written because of that reason. I could be analysing this way, way too much. Maybe they thought, you know what, we haven't got it giving him many lines this year. Let's give him some lines.
But also as well, Roland and Zamo had been there from the start, hadn't they?
Exactly.
I mean, I know Kevin was written as though he'd always been there, but he hadn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that maybe it might have been that as well. And the other thing, the way you become really involved in that was when Zamo went round to Roland's house and nicked his alarm clock.
Nicked that clock. Again, so obviously there's that whole scene where I'm running into my oral exam, and I'm meant to be hot and sweaty, and the makeup artist has been spraying on and painting on. And the director, it just doesn't look right. Erkan, go do some laps in the studio.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
On that, right? Just saying about there about running. I was watching the episodes of going back to the orienteering trip, and you do quite a bit of running in that. And one of the comments is actually, I tell you what, for his size, he can't half shift when he runs. Like,
I know. That takes us back to the first ever series of him running along with Tucker.
Yeah. Getting nicked outside school, with Baxter, So then there was that with the alarm clock, and then obviously it all comes out, and he was caught for nicking other things then, Samo, which then led to Just Say No with the record. Now you sing on the record, you feature quite.
Oh yes, I do.
But right, I'll tell you what he's just what Erkan's just done there. Erkan's just put his hand to his ear as though he's got his headphones on, exactly like he does in the video there.
So it's really weird. So obviously Lee tells this famous story about where he gets called in for the audition and he says, like, I can't sing. And you know what? He can't sing and he can't dance. And that's the truth. And I've known him all these years and he still can't sing and he still can't dance. Okay. So I can't sing. Well, I can't sing toffee. I mean, my voice, I was doing soprano back then. Right. My voice was very high. And, we go in, we sing this, and they said, right, you're going to do a line. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I just remember the video where I'm actually thinking I'm a pop star, and I've got headphones on. I'm doing that hand on the ear bit that you've just mentioned, and and I look back on the video and I think to myself, why have I got such a shit jumper on? It's really and it's the video and the whole thing was just amazing. It gave us all the opportunities for the cast members that got chosen to go. Yes, you've talked about it in previous podcasts about the animosity between certain cast members because they didn't get in, and they only got in because of this and got in that. You know what? I think the only reason they've chose and I'm going to say this today, so if I piss the rest of the cast members off, tough, I don't care. I've got broad shoulders. The reason why we were chosen was nothing to do with the script. It was to do with the diversity of the people that went.
Right. Yeah.
And if you look, it's a very diverse group of people. And I don't think it's got nothing to do with the storyline. I think it was just, well, maybe because you had the main four people involved in the storyline. But I think if you look back, we are a very diverse looking group of kids.
Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I don't think that was looked at the time.
Right.
And that's what did happen back then. So we were very all lucky to go to the States, and we was all very lucky to do everything we had to do with the whole of the storyline. I just think we were all extremely lucky. We got to make an album. Talk about that, Professor, and so I think we was all very, very, very lucky.
So, just on the White House trip, what was it like? What was it like going there?
It's a big building and it's painted white. You know what? As a 16-year-old kid, and I probably know the next question coming up. Times. Look at it this way: it's the most protected building in the world. Okay, I'm going to talk this a bit slowly.
Okay, yeah.
There are sniffer dogs.
Yeah.
Around the coach. Yeah. You have chaperones with you. Producers with you. You have CIA agents, you have police, you have military people. If you need to go anywhere, you're not allowed to go anywhere without them saying you're allowed to go anywhere.
It's okay.
Okay. It is the most protected building in the world, and anything that happens there will come out. Yeah. As we know, a president couldn't even get a blowjob.
Yeah. So why did you say it?
Why was it said? Okay. There was 2 or 3 members of the cast, and they know who they are.
Right, okay.
You may or may not have interviewed some of them.
Right, okay.
And it was just the irony. I said, wouldn't it be funny if it came out in the press that somebody had been doing that in the White House?
Yeah.
And I'm a very jovial kind of guy. I'm very jokey and a bit bullish, and I don't really care what. Life's too serious, and and then when I said it, it come and bit me on the arse. And it's probably the Granger kids smoke drugs. Come on, think about it logically. You're in the most protected building in the world. How? I mean, the irony of kids just saying no, but the irony of someone going into the most protected building and smoking marijuana is happening.
Yeah. No.
You have to be a complete arse to believe that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people still do, don't they? I know I did for a good while. I believed it. Like,
as I said, you've got to be a complete arse. Don't mind.
Yeah. All right, then that's cleared up then. So no one else needs to talk about that ever again. We know
that's going to happen.
Straight from the horse's mouth there. It didn't happen.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And to be honest, I wasn't a smoker. I didn't know nothing about drugs at the time. Mm-hmm. Later on in life, it's totally different things. But however, we've all gone through that rebirth of childhood and birth of life of finding and doing what you got to do in this world. But at the time, didn't know nothing about it. Yeah. Absolute zero. So it's just irony at the end of the time. It's that's what it is. It's just irony.
Cool. Okay then. So then that moves us then to series 10, which was your last series on Granger. You were in sixth form at this point, and I don't know. There was quite a few comical moments with Roland there, because Roland started wearing contact lenses. Whose decision was that?
I've never worn contacts in my life, and I still can't wear contacts to this day because of my eye condition. Right. You know what? The whole of that series, and I've looked back at that series, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing to have another year of Granger, but the storylines were absolutely. We were just hanging in there, to be honest. Roland goes on this imaginary. Well, what do you mean imaginary? Roland, I never forget. I get called into Ron Smedley's office, the late producer and the late great Anthony Minghella, and they call me in to listen, Erkan, we've got this idea of for Roland for this series, and we'd want your thoughts on it. And I was like, okay, we'd like you to go on his character's going to go on a sponsored diet. How do you think you can do? And I said, well, I could give it a go, not promising you anything. Yeah. So he's the only person who goes through a whole series and doesn't lose a pound. But yet we see him, he's lost weight in the end. And I just think there were some comedy moments in that series. But again, I just didn't. I think there's only one touching scene where, again, Zamo and Roland are having a little chat about getting married. Yeah. And I think that's another poignant scene. I think that's the only thing that I remember about that series that was and a stupid conga. Why
there is also...
Why would we end the series on a conga? Come on.
There is also, though, there's a cracking scene in that series with Roland and Mr. Griffiths, where Roland is not really blackmailing him, but he is blackmailing him about the donkey.
Turn that donkey into soap. Do you know what I mean? It's, again, I hated the whole of the donkey storyline. I don't get me wrong, I love donkeys. I just hate the storyline. And the lovely George A. Cooper, God rest his soul. But I mean, there's that little bit. But other than that, there's not much really going on for Roland. And you know what? I should have bailed out maybe a year earlier, to be honest. Right. Say no. Uh-huh. But then again, at the end of the day, it was fun, and that's what Granger was to me. If you sum it up, it was just 6 years of fun.
Yeah. Was there anyone that you really enjoyed working with on the program?
Everybody.
Right.
I could never say I had more fun with this one or that one, or I loved. No matter if I was working with Gwyneth, or if I was working with Michael Sheard, if I was working with younger actors, younger members of the cast, everyone was I just liked everybody, Yeah. They're all pricks. I loved them. Do you know what I mean? No. We all belong to a club. Yeah. We all belong to a club. We all went to the same school. We all have a connection.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's something that I will take to the rest of my life until I forget.
Yeah. You just mentioned there a couple of the actors who played teachers. How did you find the relationship between the kids and the adults?
You know what? I can honestly say, and I was very lucky because a lot of my first year of Granger was probably with more adult actors than the young actors. So you've got his child psychologist, the lovely Penny, who played my psychologist, who was wonderful to me. She was a writer, and she took me down to many a theatre show.
All right.
It ignited my passion for theatre as a youngster. Then I did a lot of stuff with Gwyneth, the lovely Lucinda. So a lot of my stuff, if you look at the first 2 or 3 years, I do a lot of stuff with adults.
Yeah.
You know, teachers and stuff. And they were always nice and always wonderful. I never looked at them as, oh, you know, they're big actors. You know what? I didn't even know Michael Sheen was in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
never looked at Michael that way. It was just Michael.
Yeah.
You know, it was only when I was given a copy of his autobiography and I read it. I thought, really? How did I miss that one? I could have had a fortune by now sending some stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I never looked at the teachers as anything but working people. They were just great.
Brilliant. Okay, so then that was your time at Granger. Now, IMDb says 74 episodes, which is probably about right. But what I did notice on IMDb, the last 2 series.
Do not believe IMDb.
No, I take it with a pinch of salt. I do make a stressor point of saying that you were in nearly every episode in the last 2 series. Yeah.
Bad for your blood pressure. Right, IMDb is bad for your blood pressure.
But you were in nearly every episode in them last 2 series.
Yeah. I felt that as well. You know, yeah, I mean, I think the inclusion of the character, because if the early stage was normally one episode with the younger lot, one next with the next lot, one that there was none of that inclusion, and they sort of included all the characters, which happens in real school. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah.
You do get the older boys who may know somebody in the lower years, and then you'd see them walking in the corridor or giving them a slap, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was your time on Grange Hill up. But everyone left that year, didn't they? All your whole year group left that.
Yeah,
that whole year, which
is really strange as an actor, because suddenly you're working with people for X amount of years and that's it. You don't see them anymore.
Yeah,
and that's the truth. I didn't see no one because I lived away from that whole Grange Hill past and everything, and I had my own life. I had my own friends, and I wasn't chasing the industry. So I come away from everybody, and I think maybe I probably kept in touch. We didn't have mobiles that, you know, we probably. I'm saying my first mobile was 1988, but I'm saying I think I caught up with Ricky in 1989, 1990.
Right.
I don't remember meeting up with Simone till much later. You know, I didn't really see many members of the cast.
So then you just said there about you weren't chasing the industry. Well, what did you do?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough.
They didn't really do much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But then you did make an appearance back on telly in 1988, and I loved this in Blackadder's Christmas Carol, playing one of the enormous orphans.
So do I, because I was a huge fan of Blackadder, and I remember I got a call. I can't remember who it was. It was a lady. She said, "Hi, Erkan. I don't remember me. I used to be the production manager on Grange Hill."
Right.
She said, "What if you'd like to come up to do an audition?" And I'm like, "Okay, what's it for?" Blackadder. I was like, "Oh, great. I'll come up for that," because I was a fan of the show. So I come up and they said, "I didn't know nothing." They said, "Oh, you're going to play an orphan, an enormous orphan." Okay, great. But it just helped that I'm, you know, a big guy. So I did it with the lovely, great, late David Nunn, God rest his soul. And you know what? I was very lucky. It wasn't even an audition. I basically went up there, met her. And she said, "Oh, by the way, you start rehearsing on Monday." It was one of them ones. You start rehearsing on Monday. Okay, so we started rehearsing, and this is what we do. And I'm thinking to myself, I really haven't got much to do. Really, so how am I going to steal this? So that's why the most famous Piggy Wiggy Wiggy Woo comes out. Even though it was written, you can hear me go up an octave.
Yeah.
I think I squeezed my balls that hard that day. Yeah, and you know what? It was great. It was wonderful. And you know what? After all these years, it still gets shown around the world.
Yeah.
Friends of mine was only over from the States the other week, and we were discussing that. He said like he didn't know who I was back then,
Right.
and he does because it's one of his favourite British shows. So
Yeah. Me and my mates, we love it. And that scene is probably the scene we talk about most of all, the Piggy Wiggy Woo scene. Definitely the scene we talk about more than any.
and I think it's just because of the way I sing it.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it must be.
It stays in people's heads. It's just
But
crazy.
it's what was it like? What was Rowan Atkinson like?
You know what? It's one of those things that like there's great people.
Yeah.
There's great British institutional people who've been in that show. And he was just really lovely and charming. But obviously, because he's got a really bad speech impediment,
Right.
he doesn't really communicate much out of character.
Uh-huh.
And Robbie Coltrane, I remember Robbie giving me a lift home in the car.
Right.
Really weird. I think I'd come outside and Robbie I was smoking at the time. He came out, I had a smoke with Robbie, and he said to me, where do you live? I said, oh, East London. He said, oh, I live in Hackney. I'll give you a lift back.
Brilliant.
Oh, just drop me anywhere in Bethnal Green or Hackney, be fine. He said, listen, he said, he's got this convertible Cadillac, so I'm driving. He said, I'll just drop you over here. I said, well, that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah.
Robbie Coltrane give me a lift home in his bloody Caddy. You know what I mean?
Because that cast it's pretty immense, isn't it? Like with it being a Blackadder show anyway.
Right, Miriam Muggles, you know, Robbie Coltrane. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, and then there's Roland singing his heart out as well. Which is amazing. Okay.
And that, you know, after the first pop star attempt, I probably had to take it up a second notch.
And then we didn't see it again then until you were in with another one of my comedy heroes, Chef, with Lenny Henry.
Yeah, really. Again, you know what? Really, really strange. As I said, I'd probably been working here and there, odd jobs. I did work for my dad's friend in his business and just doing bits and pieces. Worked at a bakery, worked at a record shop. I did loads of stuff. I just worked. Wasn't thinking of career or anything at this time. As long as you got money, I don't care. You know, I'm not a snob. I'm not one of these people that, you know, I can't do that. I just do anything. Clean the toilet, got to earn a buck. Do you know what I mean? We've got bills to pay. It's simple as we all have.
Yeah.
I don't understand people who don't want to do that kind of. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, at the time, I'm probably still in touch with maybe a couple of members. Nothing major. I think I was in touch with Emma Sante, who played Cheryl. And she was getting engaged. She said, listen, are you coming to my engagement party? I said, yeah, no worries, I'll be there. I'll be at your party, because we were friends, and she was getting engaged at the time. And I'm at the engagement party, and this woman said, oh, hi, Erkan, how are you? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Didn't know her from Adam. She introduced herself, and she said, oh, great. She said, what are you doing next Monday? And I was like, nothing. I've got nothing. Are you acting? No, I've got nothing on. I'm not doing anything. She went, I need you to go and see this director at the BBC. I was like, why? She went, there's a part we want you to go for, if you want it. I was like, okay, who's it with? Lenny Henry. Okay. Growing up like yourself, watching Delbert Wilkins and shows like Three of a Kind and whatever. It's bloody Lenny Henry. Of course I'm going to go. So when I turn up for the audition, when I think it's the audition, they said, "Oh, yeah, you're playing this character. You're playing this character called Otto." I'm like, "Yeah." So this contract. This is what you're going to do. This is how many episodes it is, and are you? And I'm like, and then comes in Amma and her fiance. He turns out to be the producer of this show. So that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
So I worked on that show with the lovely Lenny and Roger Griffiths, and I knew Roger, and I knew Roger's partner at the time. We grew up very locally, and Roger's always been a wonderful guy. And yeah, it was just a great experience. We got taken to, and if my memory is totally wrong, I'm sure we went to Marco P. White's restaurant.
Right.
for a couple of days, and we was learning, watching. And what was really good about that show was that it was shot on film, and it was shot with 3 cameras,
Right.
3 or 4 cameras, and that's unusual on film. So with these kind of shows, yeah, my acting career is just basically these kind of things. I'm just sort of in the right place at the right time.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all.
I remember a friend of mine was working on the bill, and he said, "Oh, why don't you come up and meet me after work?" And I'm like, "All right." So as I got up there, they said, "Oh, bloody, I got talking." And they said, "Oh, you've never been on the show?" I was like, "No." They went, "Can you do a Russian accent?" And I was like, No. The first time he went, "Oh, we need someone to do an extra, be a supporting artist. Do you want to sit in?" I was like, "What? I'll go on then. I'm here now. I might as well go and do it." And I just sat in this scene, which people say, "Oh, you're in this scene." And I didn't expect me to get like a scene on it. And the next time I went to see him, I ended up, "Can you do a Russian accent?" And I was like, I couldn't at the time. "Oh, they're coming tomorrow. We need the actor who's meant we was going to hire is pulled out. Do you want to do this scene for this? Play this Rush?" So I played this Russian drug dealer who says one line. The line got cut, but I don't know why it got cut. Maybe my accent was crap. Probably was. So everything I've ever done is just by luck, by chance, honestly.
Oh, brilliant.
And I've never really, it's not an industry that I've wanted to chase. There's not, I've never really wanted to be an actor. It's just something I was very fortunate enough to do as a child. Very fortunate enough. I remember, this is really weird. Again, so the last thing that I did was a show. So there's a show called, I can't remember the bloody show, and it's never been shown in the UK. It's mainly PBS, mainly Australian TV. So I remember doing one of these 50 hardest TV shows.
All right, yeah.
And then, say, 10 years later, I get this guy contact me on Twitter. "Hi, my name's Tom, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, nice, whatever. Can I call you?" I was like, "Yeah, fair enough. Can you come up and see us on Monday? We've got this idea, this concept for something." Okay, so I go meet these guys. And they said, "So we start filming next week. There's no script. It's all improvisation. And the show's never been shown in the UK. It's
Is it the all-nighter? Was it the all-nighter? Is that what it was?
Right. So no, I'll explain all that in a minute.
Oh, right, okay.
So this is like a show that I did. That's been shown. So I have to play this guy. Basically, it's a Dr. Michael Mosley psychological program. And I play this guy who's out there running this weird event. And during it, I have to announce that I am, in fact, Erkan Mustafa, who played Roland in Granger.
Right, okay.
It's all about triggering memories in people, and it's about their cognitive fault behaviour and stuff like that. And it's just really weird. So, I'll be honest, my career and the jobs that I've got is just because I've known people.
Yeah.
I've worked. I did remember getting. So basically, I got asked by I remember one day a friend of mine rang me and said, "Have you seen the paper today?" And I won't mention the name because it's the paper that everybody hates in Liverpool.
Right, okay, right? Fair enough, yeah.
And I was like, they did some magazine, and he said, "Right, Denny's been out and he's looking for you." I'm like, "What? Why can't they find me?" Do you know what I mean? And if Erkan's out there, can he ring the Big Breakfast office? And I'm like, "What the hell is this about?" So I ring the Big Breakfast office. "Hi, my name's Erkan Mustafa. I believe Dennis Van Outen's looking for me. Can you come down to the keeper's cottage?" And I'm like, "I can't, not at this moment." Anyway, they said, "We'll send the film crew." And they did remember doing this bit that you talked about, the TV show for next week.
Yeah.
And then I get this Johnny Vaughan call me. "Okay, hi. Denny's told me that you're the perfect person for this. I'm writing this comedy. Can you come up and read the script?" And I come up and read the script. And I was just so glad that I never got the part.
Nice, okay.
You know what I mean? But I must admit, my whole career is about people that I've bumped into or knew. From then, a friend of mine, I bumped into this woman, and then suddenly she booked me for something for Chris Evans for a sketch on TFI Friday, which I did the sketch on TFI Friday. Then from that, I got asked to go back on something else for TNFI Friday, and then I did something else. And then the next thing I know, I'm in a pub with Johnny Vegas. called that was called the Lock-In. I remember doing this thing with Johnny. We're just getting stuck drunk with Johnny Vegas and Martin on Fire and
Brilliant.
Roger the Cause. Just really random people in the 80s. So my whole career is just basically because I knew somebody knew me.
I love that though.
It's just, people are very. I mean, I got offered something a year ago, which unfortunately I've had to turn down. But somebody I met 10 years ago, and said, like, he said, I wrote this bit, and I want you to be in it. I'm like, I'm like, oh, could this chances of Netflix? And I said, look, due to some health issues at the time, I couldn't film it. My whole life is just about luck, really, when it acting jobs.
Nothing wrong with that. Like, you need that, don't you?
So, as I said to you, like my life is just full of luck. Basically, I've been very lucky, very blessed with the jobs that I've got, and even so, like the last thing, I get offered loads of stuff,
right?
And I turn a lot down because, as I said, I'm not really that fussed and I'm not really that bothered, and I do things that I enjoy, and it makes me laugh and things like that. So I got offered a friend of mine is a guy called Lee Phillip, who I've done stuff for Lee for years, really. Previous, I used to do ME1 TV with me interviewing people from the past, and that was the whole concept of ME1, was basically just to get stories documented like podcasts, get from people who people don't really talk about these days. Do you know what I mean? And we just wanted to do that, and Lee came up with this concept, this idea called the All-Nighter. And the All-Nighter is just three people. It's just about them planning, two of them planning something big happening, and it's just the way that's been planned, and then we see the outcome. But it's quite gripping and but I don't believe that it's ever going to be released. Just because it was just myself, a guy called Martin who played Spider in Coronation Street.
Oh yeah.
And another late great actor, and I'm going to forget his name, and that's going to really bug me that I forgot it. The guy who played the dad in Bread. I can't think of his name now, and that's going to bug me. And both of us are going to end this session, and we're both going to be googling away. But you could probably do that while we're there. But so it's just it's just an outcome basically, and that's what so we think they're planning a big heist, but it turns out they're just going to have an all-nighter watching their favourite Lauren Hardy movies.
Right, okay. I'm just looking now. Ronald Forfar, is that who it was?
Ronald, yes, the late Ron, yeah. So I said, I do things that make me smile and make me happy, and I think I'm at a stage in my life where, if I don't act again, it's no big deal. And if I do act again, I'm doing it because it's making me happy and it's making me laugh.
Yeah.
Or if someone's contacted me from my past and said, right, we're going to do it. Do you know what I mean? You're going to do that one on Monday. Okay, well, if I've got the time off, I'll do it,
Because you seem to have really embraced the I was Roland in Granger.
It's not about embracing it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that without it, it's not the person who I am today.
Right, I get you. Yeah.
Take ownership for something is what I'm a believer of, and I've been very lucky. I've been very blessed. It's never that I'll never go out and say I was Roland from Granger, But if people ask, you have time, because without your viewers, without the fans, a show does never exist.
Yeah.
And without someone buying your music, listening to your song, you haven't got money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So don't be an obnoxious twat. Spend time with people. Take time with people. And don't get me wrong, I probably have been an obnoxious twat over years. Spend time to talk about something that touched so many people's lives. And the moment that you forget that, it's just wrong. And I was very, very lucky. 2,000 people went for the part. I was very, very lucky. Met some amazing people, have had some amazing times on it. met so many amazing people throughout the world, be it in the industry, out the industry.
Yeah.
And, people have always said, why do you get involved in the Granger events? It's quite simple, really. It's not about money, because people say, oh, Granger events is about money. No, it's not. The people that run these events, it's not about money. It's because they want to give something back.
Yeah.
And the lovely Michaels of this world, the Scotts of these worlds, have took time out of their lives to organise these events. I organised one in 2009 for a charity event, but that was just a personal thing that I wanted to get the cast back together, and hang out with the guys. And you know what? I don't think we've ever had a cast reunion as big as that.
Right.
Ever. And the fact that Mr. Baxter turned up, Michael Cronin turned up at the age of whatever he was at a nightclub on a Thursday night in central London.
Yeah.
Come on. He did that. And, he did that because he was just, he said, there's just some certain people where I just want to see. Yeah. You being one of them. I was like, thank you, Michael. Can I buy you a sherbet? And so, the Granger events are about the fans, and the fans are what keep the show alive on all social networks, including yourself with a podcast. Granger has touched so many people's lives in whatever ways, whatever form they want. Yes, some people think, oh God, give it a rest. It's been, you've not been doing it for all these years, but you know what? And I remember a Granger cast member, and I won't name them. So I invited him to the Granger reunion in 2009.
Yeah.
And his reply was this: get over it.
Wow.
It's 20 years ago. Who the hell do you think you are? Try to do this. So me being the person at the time just went, and can you remind me what character you played? Because, I'm inviting you, but you were just so damn rude. And like, who are you?
Yeah.
Because, and I understand there's certain people of the Granger cast who've gone on, doing what they class as bigger and better things. Mm-hmm. You know what? Every one of us are doing something different from back then. All right?
Yeah. You
may be in ill health. You may be whatever you're doing, it's bigger and better because it's more time in your life. And stop being such a dick and a snob. And if people don't want to talk about Granger, fine, I get it.
Yeah.
But do not believe, and I will tell them, do not believe it's because you've gone on to bigger and better things.
Right. Yeah.
It's because your job career has just changed.
Yeah. Definitely.
An actor's job is quite simple. They do a job, but unfortunately people have to watch it. Every day people go to work. People do watch them. They're called managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see things.
Now, one of those events that you've been to almost different events there. One of them was a televised one. Bring Back Granger with Justin Lee Collins.
Well, again, I'll tell you a bit more about that.
Go for it.
Originally, they could call you up and say, "Oh, we're doing this thing about Granger in Australia, blah 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 blah." And would you like to be part of the show? Can you meet at this place? So at the time, a friend of mine was running the club night called schooldisco.com in London. Right.
Yeah.
And he said, look, he rang me because I'd done some stuff for him. And listen, he said, I've been approached by this Channel 4 program who want to host a night down here with you guys of Granger singing Just Say No. Do you know anything about it? I'm like, no, I don't. I said, I ain't got buggy, so not been approached by it. Anyway, then I'm walking around this hotel trying to look for this meeting room, and out comes Justin Lee Collins, who they cut out the bit where I just abuse him. There's a great bit there. I just said to him, and who are you? Are you a fourth member of the Bee Gees that we don't know about? Are you somebody that, I just really laid into him because I've got that sense of humour when the first time I met him. So we did the whole of that reunited, Granger reunited stuff, and then suddenly Mark Savage played Gripper, which I still to this day I have no idea why he's there. How he got invited along, but he was there and we had a good evening.
Brilliant. So I was just looking at a few things. You've been on Soccer AM 3 times, right? And the only reason I'm saying that is because that's only one more time than I've been on it.
Well, again, you know what? It's actually, what have I done for them? So I think I've done something with Lee and I.
Right.
Then I did a thing called a comedy thing called Splash. So remember they did the whole dive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they did another one. No, it was called Flop.
Right.
So they wanted me to do a flop off a diving board, and then no, I've actually been on it 4 times because we've done
right,
that.
okay.
It's not 3 times; it's 4 times. Then I did a world record attempt on there, and then I did get a record attempt on there.
All right, brilliant. Okay, and then
And it's just people you know.
Yeah, and the last thing I've written down was 2018 was the 40th anniversary of Granger, and obviously there was a few different events, but there was also you were on something for children in need as well.
So how that came about.
Go on, who did you meet this time?
No. We go back. So there's a lovely lady out there who's probably she's the best in the industry of what she does. Right. All right, without a shadow of a doubt. And her name is Sarah Matthews, and she's a so-called celebrity booker. Right. And she's probably the best in the business. First met her working on when she works on stuff for Johnny Vegas and on the 18 Stone of Idiot show. But prior to that, I'd done some stuff for her for E4. So Lee and I used to do some presenting on E4 music shows years ago. So Sarah rings me. She says, how would you like to do Children in Need at Wembley Arena? I went, I'm in. I said, because I've never played Wembley before. I've been there. I've never played Wembley. So she said, just come up for the evening. And I said, great. I said, I'll bring some friends along. And they said, yes, no worries. So I took my wife, my friend Dave and his wife, and my friend Lisa. So I get out and we get taken in for the cab through the back of Wembley and get out. I said, oh, hi, my name's Erkan Mustafa. I'm here to do, there's your pass. And then to this day, I still laugh. So with I don't know what happened. They went up and I said, I need to get the pass for these 3 girls. And they went, they Bananarama? Because they were very young staff working on the show. And it just turns out that it was my wife, my friend Lisa, and my friend Helen. And you know what, to this day I was like, really? That's girls, no offense, but you've got no talent or you can't dance. So yeah, you probably could be Mahamarama. And yeah, it was just weird, just really, really weird. Again, just luck to be on a show like that, you know, and it's a great cause because I remember doing it, Just Say No, back in the day, 1986, 87 was probably the first time I did Children in Need. So it's weird after all these years I was doing it again. Yeah. But yeah, again, it was just somebody who just rang us up. Would you do it? Yep, no worries, I'll do it.
Brilliant.
Because that's just do what you want. Just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
I'm not a serious kind of guy, as you can tell. I don't take things. And I just think just do things that make you happy, and that's what life's about.
Definitely. So what do you do now then?
I work for the National Health.
All right, okay.
I work for the NHS. I work for the NHS. I've been in the NHS for about 10 years, and that's all I can really discuss about that.
All right,
don't really mix my private life with this kind of stuff.
Cool. That's all right. So then you've mentioned a couple of people. Are you still in touch with anyone from Granger?
I've always kept in touch with Ricky Simmons. We call each other probably once or twice a year. Lisa York, once or twice a year. As most people know, the late great Terry Supat. Terry and I were friends in years after Granger. We met quite a lot up until 2012, and then him and his partner at the time, Lisa, who I've just mentioned, who was a witness at my wedding. We became really good friends, and then we lost Terry, and who's missed dearly. I still speak to Paula Amblan probably once every 2-3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. George Armstrong, who played Alan, we've been in touch since probably the Granger's 30th anniversary.
Right.
Speak to Lee McDonald probably once every 6-7 weeks. You know what? I've always got time for any of them who contact me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
not only that, as I just said to you, Granger is a club. So I never worked with the lovely Rachel Roberts, but I'm very lucky that I reach out to Rachel via social media and Facebook, and we're in contact every now and again, just wish each other well. Again, the young lady Jessica who played Fabienne, via Facebook, we had the opportunity to meet up again.
Yeah.
So I am very blessed that we all went to this club, and I'll talk to anybody who'd been in Granger, because you know what, I may have not worked with you, but we have a connection somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of a show like that, and that's why I'm a champion of the show, and I think I'm a champion of the show because of the fans, not because I was in it. It's because of the fans, and I will keep saying it. Without the fans, the show does not get the kudos that it has. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, because you all do it. You all do what you do marvelous, and because of your love and passion of the show. And I thank you all, basically.
Brilliant. Thank
Just
you.
Don't ask for a pound.
Okay, so we are coming close to the end of the interview now, Erkan. So I've just got my final few questions. There's been talk of a Granger movie. The story came out the start of the year. It was, Phil Redmond's on board and blah blah, getting written and all that. What's your thoughts on that?
To this day, I know as much about it as you.
Right.
Is there a call for Granger? I do not believe that Granger, the TV show, should happen, because I don't think society is different, and I think the viewing, there's no viewing. I don't know, viewers, I suppose, apart from the older generation, will probably watch it. I just think the way TV and social media and the way people watch TV now, we can never have a show like Granger again.
Mm-hmm.
As for a reunion show and a film, there's definitely a call for it because the fans want to see it. If the script's right, and knowing Phil Redmond, who's never ever done anything wrong in his life when he's picked up a pen, ever.
Yeah.
He's probably one of those kids that picked up a pen back in the day and he spelt his name without being told. One of them kids. When it comes to pen and paper, Phil Redmond has never done anything wrong, and that amazing mind of his, who's created so many characters over the years. Good luck. If the film comes apart, and I think it's going to be a great thing for the fans of the show, and maybe bring in another lot of younger audience, because it seems like the parents are bringing their children to watch the show. It's amazing that we're still watching another generation.
Yeah. So if you were asked, would we see Roland Browning in the movie? Again,
I will definitely say yes, because I know it will be a chance to work with somebody I've worked with in the past, and that's going to be fun to be working with that again. As I just said to you, it's love and the funness of it, and as I said, I don't want to be an actor, and I don't see myself as an actor, but I do things because I enjoy it, and and that I think, I enjoy it.
Yeah, brilliant.
So who knows? If it takes off, then wonderful. If it doesn't, then I'm sure there's going to be somewhere along the line a reunion somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. So you said earlier on that you watched Granger when you were growing up. So other than Roland Browning, who was your favourite character on Granger?
Because I listen to the show, I know this question's coming. I always notice the end of the show. And I'm still struggling.
Right.
I'm very much still struggling. And I think out of all the characters that I've watched of the show, or I've been privileged to work alongside, I would possibly say Danny Kendall.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Just because John was an amazing actor. He was like a little terrier.
Yeah.
If he was a dog, he'd be a Yorkshire Terrier. Cute, annoying, and people want to kick him. But I just loved, and I love the fact that John's character went 3 or 4 years with just a red bag in his coat pocket, but no one knew what the book he was reading or anything else. And that's the reason why. No, I think his character was really, really, really good. I really liked Danny Kendall. Yeah, I said to you, I've listened to your show and these podcasts, and I know this question's coming, and I still can't bloody make up my mind. So for today, Danny Kendall, ask me in 6 months' time, I'd probably want to be Miss Booth.
Okay. Would you have liked to have played Danny Kendall then?
Yeah, I think Danny Kendall, yes, because he's great. He's a great character.
Yeah.
He's a really good, and he's very, not only he's very, he played it very subtle.
Yeah.
John Lambert just played it really, really subtle, and he's going to be a character that's always going to be remembered.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just think because he played it so well.
Yeah, definitely. He gave 0, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'm not one for swearing because my mum might listen on this, but he gave 0.
Oh,
you know what I'm trying to say there, like.
My mum will listen, so I will swear. And,
Brilliant. Okay then. So my final question, as it is every time, why do you think the affection for Granger is still there?
Mate, I've said it all along. It just had a huge impact on so many people's lives, and again, we've all said it. Comes a time when social media and TV was at its, only 3 channels. We had 15 million. Granger had 15 million viewers, and it's just stood the length of time because it's a connection from majority of people's happy times as a child, and they've carried that through to later in life, and that's the reason why people talk about Granger with such happiness, and joy, and they embrace it. They embrace that show.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, thanks to all the listeners of this podcast who love Granger and still keep it alive.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming on, Erkan. It's been great talking to you. I've really looked forward to this one, and I don't think I've stopped smiling the entire time.
No,
we've had the chat.
For the listeners that don't know out there, this guy's not had a bath in 24 hours because he's got he's run out of water in not because he's from Liverpool. It's this first route, and it's been a privilege to be invited on. The only question I have: why didn't you ask me earlier?
Mate. To use a very northern phrase, I'm absolutely made up that you've come on. Like, so thank you.
Mate, it's been boss coming on.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No,
it's been great talking to you. And for anyone who's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.